Hello everyone, welcome back to Simulated Heaven. I'm back again in Farm Manager 2021. As you can see, I've just completed the Farm Manager 2021 Master of Economics scenario. So rather than last time I did a three-part mini-series showing exactly how I did everything, in this I just want to kind of do a summary at the end just to talk about my strategy of what I did, right? So I've already finished, but I can still continue. I'm going to pause so that we don't have any distractions. Now you can see that I ended up with quite a large farm at the end. Now, I'm not going to say that I did this in the most efficient way, but I kind of experimented, because in the last video I said that the fish farms are a really good way for you to start out making money. And when I first started playing this game, I would very often start out many of the scenarios with that. But after a while it gets a bit boring. So this time I decided to go the way of chickens. So I started out with chickens. I started out with the small chicken coop, and then over time I gradually then replaced them with the medium and now the large chicken coop. Chickens are also not bad to start off with. The money you earn is not as fast as with the fish farm, but it's still pretty okay. They they are not that hard really to maintain. It's just that with a fish farm, there's less moving parts that go into it, but the chickens is slightly higher, but it's still not too bad. Anyway, so then I randomly decided I would experiment with beekeeping, and I thought it'd be quite interesting because in the past when I've done beekeeping, I have a lot of agriculture on my farm, right? But actually when I started this, I don't have any agriculture at all on my farm, so we ended up just making the multi the multi-flower honey, right? Because there's no fields around me at the time, so we ended up with that. I found out that the beekeeping is a pretty okay way of making money, although obviously in the winter it goes completely dormant and it does actually take up quite a lot of room. But I don't know, I think it's a good earner, but it just takes up a bit too much room, so it's hard for you to do it on a large scale. But it was interesting to try out the beekeeping this time round. So I had my the chickens, the beekeeping, and then I found out obviously I have a lot of eggs. Now I realised that I'd have a lot of eggs and a lot of honey, so I figured I'd start with a bakery, and I thought eggs and honey, there must be like a cake or something I can make in the bakery. It turns out there wasn't really anything that required honey, so I just went with the eggs and I started making pasta and cake in the bakeries as another way of making money. I should have said at the start that the whole idea of this scenario is to earn 5 million euros. So I thought by turning my things into a finished produce, you're going to earn more. And then later on down the track, I decided that I would try to, rather than buy the milk and the flour, first I thought I would get my own cows, because actually with only 2 medium cow sheds, and for some reason they only have one person assigned to them. I didn't even know that. That's funny. Is it because someone has resigned? Anyway, we still had way too much milk anyway, right? With these 2 cow sheds, we had more than enough milk for us to run 3 bakeries. And you can see, well, there's only one of the things, the cake, that requires milk, but that was more than enough milk, because obviously if you can make your own milk, it's a lot cheaper than buying in the milk. And then I decided like to do the same with the flour, because both of these recipes require flour. So you can see that I've got 1, 2, 3 fields here of varying sizes. I had to upgrade my house in order to get this really big field here. So I have these 3 fields. All of these are with organic wheat, and then the organic wheat is then turned into flour with these mills. I think this is the first occasion I've tried using the mills. The only thing that I would say is I was a bit disappointed with the amount of flour that I could churn out of each of the mills, because even with all of my own wheat, and I have a couple of mills, I was still finding that with these 3 bakeries that we were running out of flour, like still reasonably often. So ideally I'd have to make another one, so it kind of seems a bit unrealistic. Another thing that I realised is I remembered in this scenario that I don't really like in this game how they have these garages. You have basically 2 options for your vehicles. This kind of a covered garage, which is obviously better because your vehicles and everything won't wear out from the weather and things like that. The other option is just like an open car park, but you end up having to make all of these garages. I mean, this wasn't really a very agricultural heavy scenario. I mean, there's not really a lot of fields here, and I added this really big one at the end. So for most of the time I only had these 3. Oh, and by the way, I was growing oats here because I was feeding organic oats both to the chickens and the cows, so I thought, why not grow my own a little bit? And I already had all of the machinery that I required anyway, so I thought, why not? But yeah, I would much rather that they had, like, well, in a real farm you just have a big barn or a couple of big barns that have got a roof on it, you know. So I don't know why they don't have that option in this game. It's a little bit unrealistic having these kind of garages, and it's just really annoying because you end up with loads of them, right? And and especially if you have a very agricultural heavy farm that you are making, you end up with loads of these. Also the warehouse, I also ended up with a lot of warehouses. I don't know if I'm doing something wrong, if there's some way. I did do some things on here, on the studying thing. I did do a few options here that increased my storage, but I still found that my storage was running out on the warehouses quite a lot. And as you can see, I did use quite a few of these training things, especially I used the ones for the building cost, these ones that they reduce the bills a fair bit, and ones that were about increasing the production and things like that. So yeah, I did invest in quite a lot of these, and actually early on, before I started buying these really expensive items like the bakeries and everything, I made sure that I had maxed out the skills, whatever you call them, these that are based around the cost of the buildings. So in the end I got all those buildings like 30% cheaper, which really adds up when you're buying quite a lot of expensive ones. So there you go. I mean, like I said at the start, I wouldn't say this was the most efficient way of doing it. I kind of had fun with it, and it probably took a bit longer that way, but I certainly enjoyed myself. So there you go. That's how I did this scenario. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.